About a month ago, I was wrapping up a communication class and taking a final exam at a Starbucks. And I was really in the zone until a couple sat down right next to me, and they were on a first date. Now, normally I don't get very distracted by things when I'm working, but this couple was asking each other a lot of questions, some of them personal, some of them weren't, but they were trying to find out more information about one another. And this particularly piqued my interest because I had just written on my test about uncertainty reduction theory. And I was able to watch it unfold right in front of me as they found out information about each other. And I could really feel their anxiety across the table because they were trying really hard to find out if they would be good prospective mates and if this is something that would continue. And I really sympathize because all of us have been in situations where we meet a new person and we want to reduce our level of anxiety in that situation. And that is where uncertainty reduction theory kind of starts. This theory considers that anxiety and considers the way that people interact when they first meet with each other. This was developed by Charles Berger, and it's been a theory that has had a major impact on the field of communication and specifically interpersonal communication. And it is a theory that seeks to explain the way that people reduce their uncertainty about others in interpersonal interactions in order to predict and explain their own behavior and the behaviors of other people. And I want to tell you a little bit about this theory today, some of the major concepts, the axioms, because this is a very structured theory. I want to talk to you about the research that's been conducted in favor of this theory, and as well as some of the criticisms that have occurred. And I want to pay special attention to some of the shifts of this theory and the way it's been researched because the culture is very different now than in the 1970s when it was written. Now we live in a much more ethnically diverse culture, and we also form a lot of new relationships over the internet. And so I want to pay special attention in my research to those specific aspects of uncertainty reduction theory. So this theory was originally written about by Charles Berger in 1975 in the paper Some Exploration in Initial Interaction and Beyond Toward a Developmental Theory of Communication. And he wrote this with Richard Calabrese, who did write that paper with him, but the theory is generally attributed to Berger, and that's how I'm going to address it in my speech today. It starts with the assumption, as I mentioned, of wanting to reduce anxiety in order to achieve our goals and predict and explain behavior. And Berger describes three phases that people go through in relationships: entry, which is the very beginning; personal, which is a relationship maintenance; and exit, which doesn't always occur, but if it does, it might be something like the termination of a relationship through a divorce. And so he concentrates especially on the entry phase and when people first get to know each other. Now, sometimes you don't always want to reduce anxiety. There are times where somebody might just come to fix something at your house, or you might sit next to someone in class for a day, but you're not really interested in finding out a lot more information about them. We've all experienced this, and Berger points to three enticers that will lead us to want to reduce reduce uncertainty. And so those three enticers are anticipation of future interaction. If you know you're going to see them again, you're going to be more inclined to reduce your uncertainty about them. Also, control, if they have any kind of control over you, hold any kind of power. If this is a new boss, then you are going to want to reduce your uncertainty about them. And then also deviation. Sometimes you just run into people who act very different than what you expect, and it might throw you off guard because you don't know how to respond, and this will lead you to want to reduce your level of anxiety. A lot of times this theory is studied in the concept of dating, as people are considering each other for future interactions, and obviously this would be an important relationship. So if we consider the dating aspect, it makes it a little easier to understand some of these concepts. There are three major strategies that Berger describes for reducing uncertainty. There's a passive strategy, which is basically just observation. If this is someone you wanted to date, you might look at their social networks and you might watch them in their natural habitat, but you're not going to actually go up and talk to them here. There's also an active strategy, which you're still not talking directly to the person, but you might talk to their friends and consult other sources to find out about them. And then there's an interactive strategy, which is where you do directly go up and ask questions and talk to them and self-disclose in order to reduce your uncertainty about this person. Now there are 8 axioms and 20 theorems to this theory, and I'm not going to describe all of them today, but you can check them out in Berger's works. I do just want to read off to you very quickly the axioms. And that is that the more verbal communication that exists, the less anxiety there will be. The more nonverbal communication expressiveness, the less uncertainty will occur. The more uncertainty that is present, the more information-seeking behaviors that will be present. The more uncertainty in a relationship, the less intimacy there will be. The more uncertainty in a relationship, the more reciprocity there will be. The more similarity in a relationship, the less uncertainty will be. The more liking in the less uncertainty in a relationship, the more liking will occur. And then finally, the greater the shared networks, the less uncertainty will occur. And that's because it allows you to enact those active strategies. So let's look at some of the research here that's been conducted in this theory. The first one I want to reference was conducted by Berger himself along with a woman named Kellerman. They took 50 students and brought them into their lab. These students were volunteers, and they told some of the students, I want you to go into this room with another student and interact, and I want you to find out as much as possible about that student. And another group of students, they said, go into that room and interact and try to find out as little information as possible. Think Colonel Klink, I know nothing. Well, these students went in and they went to go talk to one another, and they did all ask questions and converse, but what they found is that when people wanted to find out more information and reduce uncertainty, they asked a lot of open-ended questions, and they participated in a lot of self-disclosure in order to reduce uncertainty about the other person, whereas people who wanted to find out just a little bit of information, they really just were more prone to make small talk, talk about the weather, and ask closed-ended questions. Now that we've described some of the research and the theory itself from the perspective of Berger, I want to shift into the ideas of different ethnicities as well as computer-mediated communication. So shifting into uncertainty reduction theory and how it stands across ethnicities. The biggest scholar in this area is Gudekunst, and he proposed that there are differences across cultures. He took this theory a little bit further and did apply it in different cultures, different ethnicities, to find out the results. This theory has been tested on people from Japan, China, Korea, Switzerland, Germany, and of course the Western world as well. And sometimes those axioms that I described do hold up, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes things don't go exactly the way that Berger described, and so we do have to take into account that uncertainty reduction theory will be different for different people groups, and we need to be able to respond in turn. One study by some scholars at California State University polled 1,163 diverse students. They were different ethnicities, and they asked them to think of someone who was similar to them, similar age, race, social status, and they asked them to evaluate not only their own uncertainty reduction strategies, but the uncertainty reduction strategies of other people. It was really interesting what they found. They found that African Americans tend to participate in more uncertainty reducing strategy self-disclosure strategies, where they perceived that they self-disclosed more and so did other people. And then Asians were less likely to self-disclose information and to receive information from other people and use really direct techniques, those interactive, almost interrogative techniques to find out information. And researchers really say that this is the difference between an individualistic versus a collectivist society. The Western world is very individualist. We tend to self-disclose a lot, share information, and try to find out as much as we can about other people. Collectivist societies are more about the whole, so they might not talk so much about themselves, and they might not really pry for a lot of information. And so there are definitely differences here that are not consistent with the original theory. Then we need to look at computer-mediated communication as it relates to uncertainty reduction theory. So one study of 704 students who had started new relationships online, this was actually in the Netherlands through a website called Hyvis, and it's very similar to Facebook or MySpace. And they found that these students, when they evaluated them to find out what kind of uncertainty reducing strategies they used, everyone did use passive, active, and interactive, but they found that most of the time people were using passive strategies. So they were just looking at other people's profiles and pictures without actually interacting with them. But even though they did that more of the time, what they found was that they didn't find that much information until they actually interacted with the person. So even though less interactive strategic strategies occurred, they found out more information and reduced uncertainty in that way. Another study by some Rutgers professors found that people who were involved in online dating often felt the need to warrant. They considered a new strategy for online situations. In addition to passive, active, and interactive, they said we also need to add warranting, which would be corroborating what people say to reduce uncertainty with more information. So this could be Googling someone to find out if what they're saying is actually true about their school or their job. They found out people did engage in that, but not as often as other strategies. So finally, let's look at criticisms. There is a significant amount of debate here. Obviously, like I said, there are issues with cultures, but also Frank, who is another theorist, he really pointed to a lot of the weaknesses in the theory, and he said that rather than trying to reduce uncertainty in initial interactions, we were really trying to achieve goals and positive personal relationships. And so he felt like this theory was a little limited in its scope. Even though there's been debate over this theory over the years, it really has been a valuable theory. It's spawned a lot of other theories, especially in interpersonal communication, and it's something that we can use in our everyday life and that we can observe going on around us. So the next time that you're at a Starbucks, pay a little bit of attention and you might notice some uncertainty reduction occurring. Thanks so much and have a wonderful day.